Welcome to Fun with Fire. A very modest production by Big Mike Industries. In association with and guided by the National Backwoods Team. All errors are mine. Who am Big Mike? Big Mike am a leader with 26 Galway Kilcoona. I've been back in scouting for 4 years, lighting fires for a lot longer than that, and sometimes successfully. I've helped out on Jamboree with the Backwoods Team. In fact, I'm the lunatic that closed the woods after the day's activities. And I followed the Backwoods Team around the country for so long that they had no choice but to accept me as one of their own. Quick bit of housekeeping: if you could stay on mute for the duration of the presentation, ask any questions in chat and I'll come back to them. Most importantly, enjoy the presentation. The fire triangle. When you need a fire, you'll find that everything is working against you having a fire. It'll be cold, wet, you'll be tired, there'll be little to no fuel available to you, or it'll all be much too big to light. It'll be feast or famine and no in between. So you have to make the fire triangle work for you. Oxygen is in the air. You can increase the amount of air getting to your fire by the judicious application of blowing on the fire. Fuel. You can collect what you can, and you can dress or chop logs to make them smaller, or throw handful after handful of small twigs onto the fire. Heat is where you can make the most difference. Totally made up fact, the SI unit of fire is the Zippo. So, let's take a standard Zippo as an example. Other lighters are available, but I think it's iconic enough that most people will have seen one. The reason I choose a Zippo is because you can't just adjust the flame up or down. It is what it is. And a lot of the time when you're backwoodsing, you have to make do with what you brought with you or what you have found. So, you have a log and you have a Zippo. If you put the Zippo under the log, all you're going to do is submark the log. It will not catch on fire. What can you do? You can chop up the log, you can make smaller pieces, and then you can, using the Zippo on the smaller pieces, will increase the size of the flame and make lighting the fire so much easier. This is not a knife skills course, so I won't be showing you how to use sharp edges. However, everything in this video was made with either a bow saw, a pencil parer, topper, sharpener, whatever, and a wood rasp. It's used, and everything you see here can be taken at face value. I'm honestly showing you nature's fire lighters, and when we meet in the woods, I'll be more than happy to show you how to do it in person. So, quick bit on safety. Don't try any of this at home, and never, under any circumstances, light a fire in a tent. This will kill you. On a tent, this will kill you, or near a tent. These will all kill you and will hurt the entire time. But wait, I hear you say, what's near? Unfortunately, this is where common sense comes in. If it looks too near, it is too near. Move it further away. Finally, onto some fun. Here you can see me laying down a fire blanket first and then putting some sand on it. I'm lucky to have sand, and you want to put at least 4 inches down. If you are out in the woods and there isn't a builder's provider near you, you want to use mud or any soil that you have, and you want to make a bed of at least 4 inches. This will stop the heat getting through to the fire blanket. The fire blanket is purely there as a last resort. Now, here's me building my control fire. This is a fire similar to one I have actually seen people out in the real world attempt to light. They just grab whatever sticks they can find, they grab lighters, matches, and you know what? They stick it underneath and they hope for the best. Whereas for the demo fire, I'm going to be using birch bark, fat wood, and a ferrocerium rod with a metal striker. Also, you can see I have all my fire starting and continuation wood sorted. To start off, because the sand could be wet, Well, it's Ireland, so it's definitely wet. Here I am putting down some dry or dry-ish timber first. This is called your raft. There's multiple reasons for doing this, but the main two are: one, it stops your tinder and kindling sitting on the ground potentially getting damp, and it also allows for air to get in underneath. And then, as a side benefit, it also goes on fire later. The crossed sticks are to keep the wind from blowing out the fire, and to keep it up to allow air underneath. Peeling some birch bark, and then showing you how to use a ferrocerium rod and steel. And what I have down there is some fat wood and some birch bark. As you can see, I was lucky enough to get that lit on the first strike. If you watch again closely, you'll see that one nice big ember comes off the steel, or spark is probably a better word for it, goes down, hits the fat wood, and manages to ignite. What is this awesome fat wood, I hear you ask? And where can I find it, I hear you ask? Fat wood is a highly resinous piece of pine, usually found on either standing dead, or can be found on live trees as well, and it's found in very close to the trunk, as you can see from the picture there. It honestly has so much fire lighting ability in it, it will go up if you look at it wrong. Some countries even sell this as natural fire lighters. It's fantastic stuff if you can find it. What I'm putting onto the fire there is birch bark, and as you can see, that's the other best bit of fire going. Then once I have a nice bit of fire going underneath, I hold my kindling above it. I don't put it down until I can start seeing the flames licking through it, and then once I do, I make sure that I'm not choking the fire underneath. Throw a bit of birch bark on top again just to make sure it keeps on going, and also because whoosh, I like fire. Now you can see I'm slowly moving up the sizing, and I'm getting about pencil size. I'm also putting it over the fire, burning my hand, dropping it, picking it up again to let a bit more air through, and making sure that I'm never choking the fire, always leaving a bit of room to let the fire out. The last thing you want to do at this stage is put too much on, because you'll kill the fire, and then you'll be really upset and you won't get any tea. Another bit of birch bark, just make sure it keeps going on fire. Whoosh. Here I am, gently feeding in a bit more wood and doing my best not to burn myself this time. It's okay, I wasn't badly hurt, it was just getting a little bit too hot to handle. Just on the use of the fire steel, don't push the striker, pull the steel back. This will direct the sparks where you want them to go, and in case your hand slips, it will stop you from knocking all your lovely tinder all over the forest floor, where it will do you no good. Now I'm going to start speeding it up here so you don't get too bored. As you can see, I'm now putting in even bigger sticks again. This is the whole progression. I'll have an infographic for you to have a look at as well. So you can see, you just get a nice fire going, and then you just start adding in more fuel as you go. As I was saying earlier, the mound is supposed to do the majority of the fire prevention, fire damage for the underneath, for the grass or whatever, you know. So you want a good 4 inches of that. Then, as you can see, I've put sticks around the outside. That's to catch any embers that might try rolling, and I have the fire blanket under that. Some people will put stones around the fire, but after seeing a few videos of stones cracking in the heat, I won't put any stone near the fire. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to build up a nice bed of embers so that I can use the fire not just as a heat source to keep me warm, but so that I can start, for instance, boiling a kettle, cooking some food, roasting marshmallows, whatever you might need a fire for. You can see down in the little window there that very, very little is happening to those sticks. Some people might be saying, that's unrealistic, nobody would ever try to do something like that. I have seen it done. And the people were cold, and they were wet, and they were miserable, and they thought this fire was going to take and warm them up. It doesn't happen. Yes, you might be cold, you might be wet, but if you spend just a little bit of time on your prep, you can have a fire going like this in no time at all. Then you can get your cooking grill on it, then you can get your pot of water on it, and once your pot of water is on, it doesn't matter that the fire is still very smoky, you're getting heat out of it, you're getting your pot of water warm, then you can have your tea or coffee. So prep work is best. Now you can see I'm adding fuel in here at one side. When you're planning on cooking, especially if you're planning on cooking over the open fire itself, if you're not using something like a saucepan or a pot, you want to add fire at one end, add fuel at one end of the fire, and then drag the embers down to where you're cooking. Like a barbecue, you don't cook on flame, you cook on embers. I told you there was going to be some awesome cuts. Look at that. Perfectly cooked sausages. Well, okay, first of all, knees, because my cameraman is falling asleep. But look at that. Perfectly cooked sausages in no time at all. That's what an awesome fire will do for you. And remember, whether you're a level 1 backwoods and this is your first time outdoors, or you're level 9 and you can cook without a frying pan at all. The whole point of learning these skills is to get you out in the woods where you can enjoy yourself, where you can eat a sausage sandwich, drink a cup of tea and stay warm, all by dint of your own effort. And for all the men out there, don't forget to bring a poking stick, because I think it's actually part of the law. You have to poke a fire if you see it. Above all else, enjoy yourself out there. Leave nature how you'd like to find it. Leave no trace. Thank you for your time.